Good morning, Nirit.
Good morning.
What a fun conversation. San Diego and the food scene.
Yes.
I think I got here San Diego 7 years ago, and I thought the Spanish influence here was massive.
Mm-hmm.
Tacos everywhere.
Eat tacos everywhere.
So
Can't get
I
enough.
mean, you're in the food business.
Yeah.
You're the food blogger expert here. So maybe you can tell us a little bit what's happening in San Diego. I mean, I understand we're on the border here. It's a border town, and obviously massive Mexican influence, but it's not exactly authentic Mexican food. It's more like a mainstream food, street food,
Yes.
right? But it's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, you see a lot of restaurants. You see what they're producing. Do you think there's anything besides that? Do you think there's new stuff coming into town? Where's San Diego at with the food scene here now?
Yeah. I mean, 15 years ago, I got to San Diego. We were a chain city, had Red Lobster. We had IHOP. We had a few pizza joints, but it was not very authentic. I mean, we had some Mexican influences. I guess there was Rubio's that was more Americanized. But now people are trying to really change up the San Diego food scene. The population has grown. The types of culinary talent has just expanded a lot. We have a lot of flavors coming in from Mexico City, concepts from Valle de Guadalupe, concepts from Tijuana, concepts from LA that are opening in San Diego. So, you don't have to go to Chipotle for Mexican food anymore. There's, there are a lot of authentic, really good options that are open across the border, but now open here in San Diego. And there are a lot of fine dining restaurants that have opened recently, which wasn't really a thing in San Diego. It was a city before more geared toward tourists. And now it's trying to appeal to the growing population that is looking for something unique and delicious.
Yeah, it's funny. I was in the events business for a long time, and so when I came here, people are like, "Can you do my event, wedding, this and that?" And they were complaining to me, the clients that are like, "There's no Michelin nice stars here. There's no nice restaurants, high end." Actually, it just started happening in the past couple of years. I mean, I'm a fan of Michelin star restaurants, but obviously you can find street food that's, hits the natural cultural things that people just crave. It doesn't have to be, made creatively by a chef or anything like that.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about San Diego is its location. You have wine country, Temecula and all that area. You have also Mexico right now is booming with the whole wine, the Guadalupe, right? That whole area. So, but since you're a border town, I mean, you have over 1 million crossing the border every day. And I'm thinking like, okay, these are not just Mexicans. We're talking about you have migrants, you have, right now Ukrainians and Russians and all this stuff happening, right? So the city is growing, right? Do you notice a food change in that area? Or besides Mexican, do you notice other things happening?
I mean, I think that a lot of restaurants, I know that several concepts from Mexico City opened here that are not necessarily Mexican food. And because that's a kind of a mix of people in a lot of immigrants in that city specifically, and a lot of different cultures. There's a lot of Brazilian food, Japanese food, seafood, not necessarily like your standard Mexican food. And you see those flavors. You also see a huge growth in European influences here, people that are doing like more home-based kitchen businesses, a lot of different catering businesses with all those flavors, which didn't really exist here until probably the last 5 years, and more so when all the immigrants came from Europe with the influx in San Diego. So there's definitely a big cultural shift in food. And
towards European more, you're saying?
I mean, there's just a lot more European influence and a lot more opportunity for people that just came here and can open these home-based businesses. I mean, during COVID, you saw a lot of people opening these catering businesses. Restaurants were closed. It was to-go only. So that just kind of gave people a chance to bake from their house or cook from their house and deliver it straight to the client. Yeah. San Diego has really grown. I mean, you can go from amazing home cooking to really good street food to Michelin star restaurants all within one day. And San Diego has a lot to offer in the food scene without the traffic of LA.
Yeah, I think also you get a little bit spoiled here because I still think there's room to go. I come from bigger cities, Toronto, LA, New York, big cities. Much more competition, I would say.
Yeah, but
So
nobody move here. The city sucks. We don't want people to drive up our prices.
Yeah, you know what?
We don't want to be the next LA. And based on the amount of housing that's happening now in San Diego, we're on our way to be the next LA. We don't want the traffic jams. We like our chill, cool, slow-paced city. It's definitely evolving and speeding up.
Yes. Do you see a lot of restaurants? Because I know, I mean, when people think of, like, I want to go to a restaurant, but I want to have an ocean view. I want to have that feeling. I want to, and do you notice that there's a lot of more food and restaurants opening up further inland? What do you think? Is that happening, or is that like people still like to be a little closer to the water?
I mean, everybody likes to wine and dine with an ocean view, but there's a lot more housing being built east. So people are opening up restaurants. They're opening up more neighborhood-based joints. I just went to one in like a small downtown area in Lemon Grove, which nobody would think would be, like a place to visit. But I honestly think it's a great destination. The chef team there was in restaurants in La Jolla for 15 years, and they saw an opportunity in the Lemon Grove market, and now it's like a hot spot for East County.
So obviously, okay, you're a food blogger.
Yeah.
Which means you really try a lot of different foods.
Yes.
You're probably sick of it. I don't know if you're not.
Well, I can't really look at another taco, but
yeah. But the thing is like, how would you, if I asked you, I'm like, okay, I want to, before I go to a restaurant, what do you look at and say, you know what, I like, you should look at Yelp reviews. You should look at, how would you judge? Is there like ways to know that this restaurant, because what I've heard, there's one thing I remember, I did marketing when I was many years ago, and it's like saying that the number one thing that people look at is how nice are the toilets. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So I'm like, what do you look at when you're like, okay, do I want to go to this place and eat it or no?
I mean, honestly, like I don't really go on Yelp because Yelp is a pay to play a lot more than Google. So I do look at Google reviews. I also look through the pictures. And the biggest thing is I go on their social media. A lot of times if it looks gross, I'm not going. I also look at their open table reservations. If every single time slot is available, it's a red flag to me, unfortunately. And, I also...
Even if they're new?
Yeah. I mean, especially if you're new, if you advertise properly, you should be booked up. If every single time slot is available,
right.
Questionable. It's like someone who can't get a date. It's like, do I want to be dating that person?
Right.
And you have to put yourself out there in a really appealing way to get those dates, to get the reservations.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I personally don't go to places where I have to wait in lines. I hate waiting. So ideally getting a reservation somewhere is good, but I do look at their social media to kind of judge the restaurant, because not only are there pictures that they post, but there are pictures by other influencers, by customers that they're tagged in. And it really tells me a lot. That's kind of why I started my page.
Yeah, which reminds me, why did you start this whole thing?
Why did I start my page?
Free food or...
No, it actually, I used to pay to, that's how it started. So when I was dating my husband, he would always ask me like where, I was in college. So he would be like, where do you want to go eat? And like, because I was a broke college student, I had no idea where you could go eat.
Right.
So I wish that there was a page where there were just pictures of food and I could point to something and say, you know what, that looks really good. Because back then platforms like Yelp, you had to look up, Japanese food in Hillcrest or sushi, whatever. So I started taking pictures of food that we would eat at restaurants when we would go out. And I would also start reposting friends' pictures with their permission on my page. And I started building it up kind of like as just a fun thing to promote restaurants. There weren't many food bloggers. This was over 10 years ago. And then one day when I had about 500 followers, I got invited by a hamburger food truck in the Best Buy parking lot in El Cajon, which doesn't even exist anymore. But we came to the parking lot and they gave us free burgers and fries to take pictures of. And we sat in the hood of my car and ate them. And I thought, we made it. Like, this is the life I want to live. And so slowly, I started reaching out to restaurants that I wanted to advertise.
Right.
And then they started reaching out to me. And in the beginning, I was just doing it in exchange for food before this became a business. I made my first $25 when I reached 10,000 followers. So it was a slow burn. It took a long time to get there. You don't become a millionaire overnight. I'm still waiting for that million, but it does take a long time to grow these things. Right. And especially now that you have videos, it's much harder than just snapping a picture. Back in the day, it was much, much easier to do.
How far would you go?
To eat?
Like, do you specialize in San Diego only?
I specialize in San Diego. I do occasionally cover, like if I'm on a trip and I go to an outstanding spot or like a winery or a hotel, I will showcase that a little bit. But
Do business owners ask for your advice?
oh, a lot.
Really?
Yeah, because they know
Like,
I've been
what
to
do they
other
ask you?
restaurants. Like, what are promotions that I've seen work? You know, like how do we get, you know, for example, a lot of restaurants are slow Tuesday, Wednesday. So something I always suggest is like a kids eat free. Like nobody wants to cook by the time it gets to Wednesday. You know, Sunday, you're motivated for the week. Monday, Tuesday happens. You're cooking for your kids. Wednesday, you're done. You're burnt out, you know? So I always advertise a kids eat free option. I also advertise them to really monitor their reviews because it's important to respond to your customers. You know, they also ask me if I have like different resources for them to get chef partnerships or collaborations with other food influencers. Who would I recommend that they bring in? And I love giving that advice because they only see what's happening inside their restaurant. I see
on a larger scale. You see
ton
the
of
bigger
restaurants.
picture. Yes,
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Do you notice a difference? I mean, you've traveled clearly, right? You've been around, and you're like thinking, okay, where do you rank San Diego in comparison to, let's say, a major city like LA or New York? Do you know what I'm saying? Like when it comes to the food scene and the way that businesses approach their marketing or their food or their quality or all of that. Do you see a difference?
San Diego is just a lot more slow paced, and we're looking for like a chiller experience in the dining space versus LA, where it like turns into a nightclub at 10 p.m., which is a lot of restaurants in that scene because that's what the population there is looking for. San Diego shuts down at 9 p.m. I mean, I can't find a restaurant that's open late. Maybe on the weekend. Oh, on the weekends, yeah. I mean, you know, you would hope something's open late. And it's only like fast food that's open late. So you can't, you know, wine and dine for 4 hours, which I love to do. And you can't really find that in San Diego. Occasionally Fridays and Saturdays, there are late night places.
So do you think if I'm a business owner, I want to open a restaurant that's all night?
Well,
you think it'll go?
Depends on your location. I think, you know, in downtown where people are leaving the bar and they want to go grab a pizza after, I think that would do really well. But if you're going to open in Carmel Valley where everyone goes to, you know, lights out at 8:30, no, don't waste your time.
Got it. Yeah. Is there a pocket that you like the most?
I love well, to eat.
Yeah, in San Diego, where would you say are the areas are like, oh man, these areas are really happening? I
love Little Italy. I think there are a lot of good options there, and not just in the Italian space, but it's also just nice to eat and then walk around. I just love that area. I think there's a lot of culinary talent there, and more also down to the waterfront area.
Right.
Also,
they're remodeling that whole area.
Yeah, it's absolutely gorgeous. You know, North County also has a lot of gems, but my main focus is like central San Diego. I mean, you know, when people come visit, they're usually going to the zoo, they're going in La Jolla, they're not traveling usually to Oceanside or San Marcos, for example. So my, you know, pocket is, you know, from Chula Vista usually to about Del Mar, maybe Encinitas.
Are you are you a fan of Michelin stars? What do you think of that whole experience?
I always think it's worth going once.
I see.
You know, like if a restaurant is overhyped and overpriced, there's like a curve, right? Like,
well, you know, the one in that hotel, the Grand.
Yeah.
Oh, Grand.
Yeah, I've never been there.
Right.
It's
What's
on
it
my
called
list.
Again?
It is called. Hold on.
I know so many people that like just
Addison,
right? What do they say? Like $2,000 a plate?
I think it's like $1,200 a person.
What is worth $2,000?
Yeah.
I mean,
no, I would definitely go once.
Golden flakes on a steak.
It better be golden flakes on a steak.
Yeah.
I do think those experiences are just unique, and you have to go once.
Right.
Restaurants, for example, like Cali, I've been there once. It was great once. I've been to Layla once. You know, there's just so much culinary talent coming into San Diego. New restaurants popping up all the time. Yeah, like I can't keep up and be everywhere. Although I'd love to just eat and eat and eat.
Do you think they stand up to the hype? What about quality? Like, they're still a restaurant. They're not really a Michelin star restaurant. Michelin stars, you can expect you know that they're getting the best of the best. Yeah. With these type of restaurants, you know, the mom and pop shops and these type of things, I mean, you're not going to get pasture-raised chicken or something. You're not going to, right?
Depends on the restaurant.
Really?
Yes, I actually know of a Mexican restaurant, Pachuta Mexican Grill. They're opening. They're going to be all grass fed and seed oil free, which is something that I really appreciate because that's very hard to find. I did try a fried chicken in avocado oil, not the same. Much better in a horrible oil for you.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I think there is quality if you look for it in the right places. Prices have gone up like crazy. So restaurants have
Right.
brought down the quality. I also see portions have gotten a lot smaller, which is really disappointing for the customer. The minimum wage has risen. They have to cut back somewhere. So, you hope that they source things locally. You hope that they have good ingredients, but it's not always the case.
What are you seeing
Unfortunately.
right now with the restaurant? With not just the restaurants, the fast food places, or um, I mean, the struggle is real for them, right? They're especially with not just the food prices, but especially we're talking about before the podcast started the whole, you know, hiring, help, and in California especially. What do you think? Where do you think can they pivot? What can they do?
Automation is the key,
Yeah,
and
so you're
less
all for
which
AI and robotics. You're like,
I'm not all for it. I think there's some things that customer service is not going to be the same with a robot versus a person. But you do see a lot of restaurant owners that, like, I have a scheduled meeting with, and they're like, sorry, our chef called out, our sous chef called out, the waitress called out, like, I have to go bus tables today. That happens a lot now. I think the work culture and the entitlement of this younger generation really, really impacts restaurant owners that are just trying to work hard and make a buck. And, people want to get rich overnight. They don't show up to work for their own reasons like they used to. And, it's really changed things, and it brought sales down a lot for restaurants because they don't have the support that they need to really run a good operation.
that's really sad because even from the old statistics, I mean, what 90-something% of restaurants fail in the first year or some so.
Yes.
So it's like you're telling me it's even worse now. Ugh.
It's just very hard. I mean, there's a lot of startup costs, a lot of taxes. I recently found out that if you have a scale and you're swiping things, you don't have to pay a tax. But if you have like a gun and you scan a product, you have to pay a tax for that, for not having the scale. There's just a tax for everything. So, at the end of the day, these business owners really are getting hit in all directions with different expenses. That drives up the food cost. Less people are visiting. It also drives up the price that they have to pay for their staff. And it just is a hamster wheel of issues.
Ay,
Yeah.
it's a very
California problems.
question is, I'm thinking there's a lot to think about when it comes to planning ahead and pivoting even today for the future. I mean, America and the current administration is trying to, like, with what's his name, RFK, with the whole, removing all the dyes and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, yes. And I'm like, oh, man. I mean, I love the fact that it's going to be healthier. I like the food in Europe. Tomatoes taste like tomatoes. And I want that here. But how do you, there's going to be a whole new cycle that's going to have to happen. And
Yeah, it's going to really change the scene. I mean, it's hard to sustain that level of quality for a good price. And then you're trying to source things locally. It's expensive. Everybody has to pay tax. It's a revolving door of problems. What came first, the chicken or the egg? We're going to see how this is going to change the restaurant scene. Literally chicken or egg right now because the egg prices are insane, and that is affecting,
I'm getting some chickens.
Yesterday was April Fool's, and one of my clients, Tajima Ramen, I managed their marketing. We ran an April Fool's joke that eggs from chickens are too expensive. We're going to start using turtle eggs. And honestly, I mean, it might be a joke,
I love it.
We might have to do it soon because it has really decreased their margin on each bowl of ramen that they sell. And that's something that the customer kind of has to eat, literally. Like that is a cost that they didn't increase the prices, but a lot of restaurants that serve eggs did increase items that have egg in it and as part of the ingredients. It's something to think about. If an egg costs 29 cents for a restaurant and now it costs 73 cents for a restaurant, that's a huge piece of the pie that they have to make up somewhere. Yeah. It's going to be a big change in the next few years. For better or for worse, we'll see. I don't know. Hopefully it gets healthier. You go to Europe and you have dairy products and your stomach doesn't hurt forever. Here you eat a slice of pizza and you're
It's
out
the
for
same-
4 days.
Same with bread and gluten, right?
Yes.
All the
like bread
flours.
is, here it's terrible. So, hopefully it'll improve at the right cost to sustain the businesses. One time I came to visit a coffee shop. They asked me to promote their seasonal drinks. It was all pumpkin spice, fall, all of that. I started filming and every product was like Kirkland brand, Costco, powders, syrups, flavors, cakes, everything was like in a Costco. Like,
there's a
how
lot of
hard
that,
is
though,
it?
right?
I know it happens, but pour your syrup into like a nice bottle.
Oh, I see.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I can't be filming that you're pouring out of a Costco pumpkin spice mix. Like, this is just going to kill your business.
So are there jobs that you said no to?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. But no, I do try to help small businesses as much as I can.
Right.
When I do film that kind of stuff and it happens, like I provide my feedback after, but I make sure that none of that is seen in the videos, because I don't want to kill your business by exposing that you're using Kirkland powder. Like, why come to your cafe when you can make it at home? Especially when you're trying to do like a unique higher end $7 latte that you're mixing. So that can really kill a business. I also went to a restaurant once, filmed all the food. Typically I eat it after, or sometimes when it's too much.
I have to?
Well, no, I typically do eat it, or I bring it home,
Right.
for my family to eat, whatever. So the food doesn't go wasted, or it goes to the staff. One day I went to a restaurant. I took the food to go. They were like, yeah, of course, take it to go. I didn't have time to sit there and eat the 67 dishes. And they sent me a bill for the food after, which I thought was just the most odd thing. Like, I am promoting your restaurant. You offered for me to take the food home after. I don't know what you were going to do with this food. And then you sent me a bill. I thought that was just, and they paid. So they basically subtracted the amount of money the food was worth off of my fee for the feature. So that was really surprising. I wasn't expecting that. I think they just didn't know the manners of working with an influencer.
Tell us, what is it?
You want
I own a restaurant.
Right.
I reach out to you. I say, Nirit, could you?
Yes. Okay. So
What is it-
I
what
will
is it-
say 99% of the
process?
times, they message me, I send over the pricing, they agree. I come to the restaurant. I usually have an experience for 2 people. We can either choose the items that we think would look the best, or if there's something that they want to promote, a seasonal item, a new dish, a new menu, happy hour, whatever, they can kind of pick the items, and we capture that whole experience. And then afterwards, I edit the video and post it on San Diego Eats. The thing that, restaurant owners sometimes don't get is that they will kind of be skimpy on how much food they provide. And it's like, the more you provide me, like the more quality items you provide me, the better you're going to look online. If
But
thousands
don't you explain this to them?
most of
interaction
them,
do you have
most
with
of them understand. But if I can tell the restaurant hasn't worked with a blogger before, or they're a new place, I do try to explain to them, like, whatever items you want to feature, I will capture. But if it's going to be 2 dishes, that 20-second opportunity that you have to advertise to thousands of people is not going to be as good as if you feature your top 5 to 6 sellers. And that's what restaurant owners, they don't get. But it's worth providing that additional dish for me to film it. And I do try to incorporate every single thing that I am provided during an experience.
So out of curiosity, which would you say food establishment is an ideal candidate for, like, they get most value from your service, and which would be like,
Sure.
not as much?
So actually the restaurants that do the best from on my page are the fast casual concepts, because it appeals to a mass market that can afford the products that I'm advertising. Tacos do incredibly well. Hamburgers do incredibly well. The healthy, more expensive food doesn't do as well because there's just less people that are willing to pay for it right now because of the high prices. Also, when you're doing luxury fine dining experiences, it does still help the restaurant because it gives them the exposure, but obviously they're going to get less people making reservations than people going to buy a $12.99 sandwich. So that's a big thing. And then also, I try not to do big chains. Years ago, I advertised Subway. I lost a lot of followers. People were really upset that I was, featured a chain. They're still a business and they're a franchise, and it's mom and pop owned. So I did promote that. But a lot of these restaurants are franchises, and just because there's a big brand name doesn't mean they don't deserve to be promoted in the local community. So I work with all kinds of restaurants. I think the ones that do the best are the fast casual ones.
Top 3 things that you think most restaurants could improve on. Did you notice?
There's lots.
I wish that they could just focus like these 3 things at least.
Yes. So most restaurant owners don't know that they have the email address of every single customer that's paid with a credit card, which is almost every single customer, especially most places are cashless. When you sign a credit card, when you open a credit card, you typically sign that restaurants can reach out to you and they can capture your email through their POS system. Yes. So, POS systems like Toast, for example, capture all of those, and then you can send emails out to every single one of your subscribers, which is every single diner that has ever paid with a credit card. So I think, restaurants really need to focus on marketing and just being top of mind, because there's so much competition now. You gotta email them. You gotta be on their social media. You gotta, if you're a pizza joint, when someone thinks pizza, they think of your restaurant. So you need to appear in their email, and you need to really appear in their social. A lot of restaurants don't use influencers because they think, we're good, sales are up, we're doing great. The best time to advertise is when you're doing really well, not when you're down. That's too late. So I think the restaurants really need to focus on that. The other thing is the customer service. So when I dine, I obviously have the best customer service because they know that I'm coming to do, a feature on their restaurants. They're, and a lot of times I'll review a place and I'll get comments that their customer service really sucks, which is not something that I experienced. So customer service is really, a make or break it for someone's dining experience. And then the third thing is not having an identity crisis restaurant. What I mean by that, a lot of restaurants open, they want to be cool and hip, but they'll offer cuisine from way too many sectors. So they'll have on their menu, sushi. They'll also have a steak menu. They'll also have flatbreads. They'll also have guacamole. They'll also have Chinese dumplings. I see this all the time. I don't work with those restaurants because they typically close. You need to be good at one thing and do it really, really well. I just went to a restaurant that had guacamole and chips as an appetizer, and then like an Asian stir fry in the entree. 99% of the times, these restaurants fail. I mean,
so you're saying specialize.
Specialize, yeah.
Really?
You want to be known for something really great, not that you're serving,
But then again, you have, like, if you look at coffee specifically, right? There's so many coffee shops with high-end espressos, machines, and all this kind of stuff. And they seem to be all doing, it's more about location versus anything else. So that's an example of, not necessarily, and they all do the same stuff, right? I mean, muffins and whatever.
Yeah. I mean, you have to make yourself different. When you're a big chain, it's easier to stand out because people know your name. Better Buzz, for example, in San Diego, people will choose that over a small local shop because they know that no matter which location they go to, it's going to be the same quality, it's going to be the same product, and they know it. Also, convenience is really important. You see these like drive-through coffee spots that are opening. There's a new drive-through coffee and cookie spot, which I think is genius. That's like a fast thing that you could get pretty much daily.
That's a question. How much do you think experience, the mood, the setting is, I'm always trying to think like what hits more with diners. Is it more the experience, or is obviously the food itself is also the experience? But if it's a really cool, hip place, people will look at food as like, it's okay if it's not the best.
Yeah. I'll give you a really good example of that. Layla opened in North Park. Can't get in. I mean, the reservations are booked up forever and ever. People are selling their reservations when they can't make it last minute. It's crazy. The restaurant is extremely unique. There is nothing like it. I mean, in all of San Diego, there's nowhere you're going to walk in and it's dark at all times and there's stars in the sky. It's absolutely gorgeous. To be totally honest, for Middle Eastern food, it was really average.
Yeah, because you're also familiar with Middle Eastern food.
I am familiar with Middle Eastern food.
If you ask most Americans.
Well, so in the American sector, everyone thought it was incredible because they had never tasted anything like that before. I thought the vibe, the drinks were great. Some of the food was amazing, but when you have a dry chicken kebab, like it's a red flag for me. Like chicken's got to be juicy. There's, that's like the number one thing, and it is a lot about the vibe in San Diego because it is a nice city with great weather and great people. And you want to go to a cool place after you get off work or on the weekends. And so that is something that is really important for San Diego. But you do see a lot of culinary talent coming here, opening restaurants that are delicious and also a total vibe. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff. Jean et Jolie in Carlsbad, for example, that opens up. There's also like the Whaling Bar at Valencia that is just a total vibe to sit in. Starlight has just reopened. There's a lot of very cool hip concepts that people are kind of going to, not just like the young crowd, but the older crowd that just wants to try something new and not go to the same restaurant they've been going to for 30 years.
Mm-hmm. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Give me one last interesting story.
I'll just give you a restaurant that I've been to that is worth the experience. I've been here 4 times. It's an omakase experience in San Diego. It's the sister restaurant of Azuki Sushi called Kinmei Omakase. They are in Bankers Hill. It is $215 a person and 8 to 10 courses at each experience. The flavors are unlike anything you've ever had. Every time that I've been, I'm just like, wow, this is just so good and so worth it.
Oh, so you went there multiple times?
I've been there 4 times for 4 different seasonal menus. So every 3 months, they change the menu based on what's locally grown. The fish is straight from Japan. I've seen them, I've come in early. Japan.
They buy their fish from here, no?
No. Well, some of the fish does come from Mexico, but most of it is from Japan.
I see.
The culinary artists that are doing these meals are super talented, and the flavors, the textures, I'm really big on textures. It's super unique. It's 10 seats. Everyone gets served at the same time, 5 and 8 p.m. seatings. They're only open 5 days a week. Highly, highly recommend trying it out. It's one of my top 3 experiences in San Diego for sure. The reservations open on the 1st of the month. So on the 1st of the month, I recommend jumping on it. But they usually do have some spots during the week, not so much on the weekends.
Coolio.
Yeah.
Looking forward to trying it.
Yeah, enjoy
Thank
it.
you for all the information. This is great. I love these conversations.
Anytime.
Real time, real people.
Yes, that's us.
When I'm going. Yeah, San Diego is going to boom even more. I know that.
Yeah.
And you're right. Maybe we don't want it to be a massive city.
No, we don't.
Like
don't come here, people. Yeah. We don't want you.
I mean, it's pricey.
Yeah.
Finest
It's
city.
pricey.
In the US.
Everyone's moving. LA is moving here. Bay Area, New York. Stay home.
Right.
Let us keep this place.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.